Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are watching this. I hope you're having a great morning, great day. Today, for this video, I'm going to be explaining different techniques to use when fishing in small ponds during the summer days. Because as we reach the spring to summer transition, it can be difficult to catch fish. But there's a lot of new opportunities that haven't been offered. So we're talking about bass to start off. We're not talking about ocean fish or anything. We're talking about largemouth bass, which is the predominant species that we have in Louisville, Kentucky. And I'm going to be talking about different lures that you can use throughout the summer in order to have success in catching those fish. So when starting to talk about fishing for largemouth bass, there's truly a lot of different things, and it can be very daunting. So I'm gonna have a couple of these baits that I've had a lot of success on in smaller ponds throughout Louisville, and they would also work in lakes. I do fish in lakes occasionally, but most of my time is spent in ponds. So to start us off, I'm going to talk about the topwater frog. Now, this bait is for the topwater, right? So it sits on the top of the water, just like this. And typically you're going to use a heavier bait caster style rod with heavier lines. So this is 50-pound braid. I have a different lure on here, right? But braid floats. So some lines will sink, and if you use lines that sink, it'll actually pull your lure down, and you don't want that. You want this to sit on the top of the water. Imagine this is an aerial view. You want to tug on it. You want to make the bait walk, and there's other videos online that can teach you how to do that. I don't have enough time to talk about it right now, but you essentially want it to go like that on the top of the water, and it's an acquired skill, and it takes a while to learn, but it is a very effective lure throughout the summer, because you'll see it's a very cool bite, because the fish will actually jump out of the water and clamp onto this. So you want to throw it on a heavier rod and heavier line, just to set that hook into the fish's mouth and drag them in. Also, during the summer now, we're having brood X, the cicadas, and this is a good mimic for a little cicada running on the top of the water. The second lure I'm going to talk about is more of a finesse approach, or it's better for bass that are more finicky, so they don't really want to attack something like on the top of the water or something, a bigger profile. This is called a Ned rig. So you want to fish it on a mushroom jig head that has a flat surface, so when it's on the bottom, the bait stays upright. And essentially how you fish this is you can either just pull it straight through the water, or you can bounce it along the bottom, and it mimics depending on the forage. So forage is a really big thing in fishing. You need to understand what type of bait that your bass are eating. So if they're feeding up on little crawfish, you can have like a red, you'd have a red colored Ned rig, or you can even have some of these are actually crayfish lures, right? They make all sorts of shapes, all sorts of profiles, and it's up to you to decide what type of things are my bass eating, and that's very important in deciding what lures you're using. So for example, here's another lure. It's called a chatterbait. This is a good lure when the fish are very active. So it's a bigger profile than the last. And this is a very bright color. So if they're feeding up on very red looking crayfish, this is a great bait, because it looks like a fleeing crayfish. So when it's swimming through the water, it makes a lot of noise and vibration. And if they're very keyed in on crawfish, this can be a great choice for you. Next, I'm going to talk about the Senko. The Senko is probably one of the biggest fish catchers in history. So many people have caught fish on them, and depending on what type of what type of bait you have in your fisheries, it kind of decides what color lure you're going to use. So this is more of a natural color. This is going to mimic bluegill, little baitfish. This is going to imitate more of a shad. So shad are shiny, white. Bluegill are more of this darker, more natural color. And there's two ways of rigging it. You can either Texas rig it. So if there's a lot of weeds and stuff, you would want to Texas rig it. So you basically put it in there, pull it out, and then put it back into the lure. Just like this. Right? And then you can, this is what you call tex posing it, where you put the tip of the hook in there, so it's weedless now. And that can be effective when you're throwing it in grass or something like that, so that there's not a lot of chance for it to get hung up or to snag things. And you can also wacky rig it. So the advantages of wacky rigging it is the hookup ratio is far greater. So you just put it in like that, and you throw it out, and you wiggle it like that. So you get a better hookup ratio because all you have to do, it's an exposed hook. It's already in the fish's mouth, and that'll help you with a better hookup ratio. That's, like I said, you're gonna hook more fish in the mouth. Whereas this, if you put that in their mouth and you set the hook, sometimes that hook isn't going to penetrate through that plastic. So you may lose more fish, but if you're getting more bites in the grass, I would go for that. So I had a couple more lures, but it seems we're out of time. But thank you for watching. I hope you learned something.